July 23rd, 2007. I was flat on my back in the intensive care unit. They had rushed me from Rock the Block to the hospital in a TC van because I just couldn't breathe. You know, the first miracle is when I went into the hospital, within 9 minutes, I went from the front door to the intensive care unit. I was diagnosed with bilateral pulmonary embolisms, what they described as 6 giant blood clots in my lungs. The doctor walked into ICU, he looked me in the eyes, and he said, "Mr. Gillott, are your affairs in order? You will not survive the night." Kathy was in Virginia, I couldn't get a hold of her.
A wonderful ICU nurse shared her cell phone with me so I could call Kathy.
I'll never forget that phone call. I couldn't believe my ears. The doctor said he might not make it through the night.
My right side systolic should have been 30. 40 is serious, 50 is critical, 60 is fatal. My right side systolic was not 50, 60, 70, or 80. It was 86. I was 26 points past fatal.
When I got off the phone with Bernie, first thing I felt was fear. But then I got mad. I was mad that the enemy thought he was going to take my husband out, and I knew God wasn't done with him yet. He wasn't done with us yet. And I picked up the phone and I started to call people. And I said, we need to pray. We've got to pray.
I remember laying in that bed. Kathy was trying to get to me, but she was in Virginia. I desperately needed to hold her hand and tell her how much I loved her. I knew I was ready to go home to be with the Lord, but I was waiting to walk down the aisle with my daughter because she was going to be married, and my grandson, Bernie Gillott the Fifth. There's so much to be done. As I laid there in ICU, listening to the machines, the oxygen, I heard the voice of the enemy. He whispered in my ear. He said, "You are going to die in New York City alone. Kathy's not going to make it. Your kids won't be here. You are going to die in New York City alone." In that moment, I closed my eyes and I began to pray, and I heard the voice of the Holy Spirit. He said, "You will not die. You will live, and you will declare my glory to the nations." And there's a song that I have always loved. I've sung it so many times, but I'll never sing it again without remembering that night, gasping for breath in New York. This is the air I breathe. This is the air I breathe. And I remember the nurse coming in. She said, "Mr. Gillott, are you calling me?" And I said, No, I'm singing." She said, "Don't sing. Don't you realize you're dying? Lay as still as you can." And I said, "Sweetheart, there's not enough oxygen in this air tube to keep me alive. But somehow, when I sing that song, God turns on the heavenly oxygen, and I want to testify, I'm not going to die, I'm going to live." She said, okay. That night I had to make a choice. What voice would I listen to? What voice would I believe? The lie that said I was going to die, or the promise of God? And you have that same choice today.
I finally booked a flight. God answered our prayers, and Bernie made it through the night. I walked into the hospital room, and he looked scary, but I knew God wasn't done. I came out of that hospital with my miracle, alive, but in a wheelchair on oxygen. The doctor said, if you're to survive, it's going to demand a total lifestyle change. You're not going to be a missionary anymore. You're not going to be able to fly. Your lungs are too compromised. Your heart is too damaged. If you get in an airplane and go to altitude, your heart will burst and you will die. Bernie and I have traveled on 6 continents, over 1 million miles in this last decade. Bernie got to walk his little girl down the aisle. Bernie the Fifth was born. As a matter of fact, now we have 9 grandchildren. God has been so faithful. He answered our prayers, and he's still not done with us yet.
And God's not done with you either. What voice are you listening to? I can testify you can trust the promise of God.